Yeah, this is definitely going to be a very informal chat. I'm just giving you guys a overview of everything that was spoken at the MBAS. So the MBAS also stands for Microsoft Business Application Summit. This year it was at Atlanta, at the Atlanta Coliseum over there. They had about 5,000 people registered, 5,000 showed up this year. I know she was there. She attended the workshop I did. I saw her at the end. That's fine. So there was a lot of content covered over there. MPAS is pretty much completely for the Power Platform, which includes PowerApps, Power BI, and Flow. But that's the beauty of MBAS, is it's like a centralized place, and then it has all these other applications tie into it. So for the sake of this evening, I wanted to primarily focus on the new features that they've announced with PowerApps and Flow for SharePoint. But since we have like an hour and a half, I'll go over all the other things they covered over there. I'll also touch on the AI. And I'll even demo some of the stuff to you guys, at least the two of them over there. So the big things that they were talking about in PowerApps Mission, and this was pretty interesting because this was some of the things I was noticing on it. It was always about no code, or it was always about IT professionals, but now they've opened up the whole concept of even citizen developers and pro developers. So for the first time, this concept came into the picture because they've now opened up that option for PowerApps, the entire Power Platform. So that slide really stuck out to me. It was for the past, because PowerApps and Flow has not been there since its preview times. It has been there since 2016. It went live about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And at that time, it was 100%. This is just for IT professionals. If you are in Excel, if you're familiar with Excel coding and things like that, then PowerApps is for you. But they've widened the options now. So they've actually said now you can even do citizen development work and pro developers, and they've actually talked a little bit about that. So I'll see if I can have some time to cover that. But I did want to kind of make sure I told you that no longer is it just IT professionals, but it also expands to all these categories as well. Open up the slide over there. Okay. So on the PowerApps platform, this is basically what the entire Power Platform is, and it encompasses all of this over there. Couple of the big new one is AI Builder. AI Builder is actually in preview right now. They went ahead and announced the AI integration piece at MBAS. So that was back in June, I think. No, so MBAS was in April, I think. But the new insight into that was AI Builder. If you went a year ago to last year's MBAS, all you would see is Power BI, PowerApps Flow, and then Common Data Service and Data Connectors. That's it. This year, the new feature they added in was the AI Builder. And right now, if you go into any of your Power Apps over there, you can access AI Builder. In its preview, you can start playing with it, and I'll actually show you a demo of one. But that was the newest update. The other big update, and that happened thanks to Satya, was the name of Power Platform. That name came out, and the date actually says back in January of 2019. That was the first time Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, actually went ahead and started talking about the entire Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. So two things happened over there. A new name came out, which was the Power Platform. Second thing, which was a big deal for me, is that the CEO of the company is now saying, this product is ready, I'm going to start talking about it, which is huge from a business standpoint. Because that caught attention of a lot of people. There were actually a lot of companies who were just testing it to see, is this a go, no-go, what's happening. But when he started singing it, they actually could see a big spike in the use of the Power Platform product over there. And they actually shared some of their statistics over there. So, I'm kind of pointing out some of these things, so this is not just a technical session. There's business people over here, there's consultants over here, and I want to kind of show that if you even have the doubt about Power Platform being the go-to product, now it's official, because the CEO will approve for that as well. So I always thought this was an interesting one that they announced over there. And I picked up these slides from a lot of the other keynotes over there. And then, as you can see, the three major takeaways over there was The key one being it's no longer just no code, but it's low code and code. And then now in the integration of AI. So what I'm going to do now is actually jump into a little bit more detail into the PowerApps piece, and then I'll look at the information from the SharePoint standpoint. So this is basically how the breakdown of the different levels of the application works and how you support it too. So the Power Platform is way on the top. I mean, we've only got PowerApps over there, but the Power Platform talks about PowerApps Flow and the Power BI over there. But then there is the other tier of the Azure services, and that's where developers can come into that in the picture over there. And I love this whole synergy which is available right now, because you can actually go ahead and build, a developer can build what's called as a solution. That solution can be deployed directly into the PowerApps, and then everybody else, the non-developers, can use it as well. And then on the downside over here is the Azure Data Services, which is your back end. And I'll deep dive a little bit more on the Azure Data Services towards the end, because any PowerApps, the Power Platform users, if they are 100% Power Platform, they don't care about SharePoint or any data connection. They use something called as CDS, Common Data Services, and there was a big change made on how the CDS is built. And you can already see where that CDS came from.
How much, if any of that, is relevant if you're just customizing a SharePoint list with PowerApps?
One of the questions Dean just asked is the slide that I have over here. How much of this slide is relevant if you are just using SharePoint as a list? So I would definitely say the Power Platform. That's relevant. And then the other thing would be the Azure functions, and the second tier over there, the Azure services. Because even with SharePoint, you can still build custom solutions over there. You may not be able to use it directly from the Power App side, but you can still use it from the Flow side. Is that a question?
Okay, so if I'm on a SharePoint list and I pick custom forms,
yeah.
I can still have an Azure service hooked into that form?
Whatever data you want to use Azure services, you will send that to Flow. Flow will go ahead and do that, and then return it back to PowerApps.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing. He's actually brought up a great point, and I've actually had to answer this a lot of times, because everybody says that, well, PowerApps, with the customized SharePoint customized form is PowerApps. So why can't I do everything which is PowerApps? And the actual the actual fact is the customized form is just a section of the entire PowerApps Studio. It's not 100% the same. A couple of things they've intentionally actually hid. For example, from PowerApps, you are not, from the customized form, you are not allowed to do a save as and save it as an MS-APP file. Because the customized form on SharePoint doesn't leverage the entire functionality of PowerApps. There's a lot of back-end development work which is involved in that. There's a number one request which is available, which is requested right now, is that I put in all this time and effort to build a customized form. Can I just have a button which turns it into an app? And you just can't, because that PowerApps Studio, which we will call it as a customized form, is just one section of the entire PowerApps. So that question which Dean asked was a really good question, because yes, it is PowerApps, but it's not 100% the entire PowerApps. It's a very specific set of features to match what SharePoint wants.
So you start off the wrong way at the dead end.
You start off the wrong way at the dead end, yeah. It is dead end. And there's so much that I can talk about, because I answer this all the time. It's even how you build a form in PowerApps. There's number one question I keep asking people, why did you put a gallery in the PowerApps when you already had a view for SharePoint? Because you're already running into the number one most hated word in PowerApps, and it's the delegates. Everybody knows. Anybody who's used PowerApps knows that word. It's always, you know how when you buy a house, location. With PowerApps, it's delegation. It's not just about the data source, it's about the functions, but oh yeah, if we have time, I will tell you some of the delegation problems. But anyway, Dean, you are done with your questions. So that was a really good question.
I'm going to text some up to you guys. I'll tee you up.
That's good. But so remember, like I said, that when Satya went ahead and he officially put his stamp, this statistic was pretty cool. Is that let me go back one minute. Was that now in the PowerApps Momentum, this has been the growth. So The common data services, for us, we wouldn't do it because we're specific SharePoint people, which means we only save SharePoint, but anybody who's 100% Power Apps, they use common data services. So there was a big spike on that over there. 700% growth in the Power Apps production just in 1 year. And if you see kind of the similarities, back in January when Satya went ahead and announced, there was a big spike of how this platform is here to stay. And so the key thing I think I want to tell people is that I was an early adopter of Power Apps back since its preview days, but now everybody else, companies, everybody are adopting it because of two things that has happened. One is their CEO has officially embracing it. The second thing is it's plugged into SharePoint now. That was a big game changer for them. If it's plugged into SharePoint, then now you've got two big applications. SharePoint also saying that we know this application is here to stay, and we're going to directly integrate that over there. So all in all, during the entire MBAT, they announced 400 new features and improvements, which obviously I can't go on all of them. What I'll do is I'll be sharing my slide deck in our Yammer, so you can always log in and take a look at that. And in that slide deck, I'll provide you a link to all these new features that are available, and you can actually take a look at that. So the first half of this meeting, I'm going to only focus on Power Apps, Office 310 and Office 365, which encompasses SharePoint. And then if we have some time, we'll go look at the other piece as well. What I might do is I might skip on the CDS side, and I'll jump in and we'll definitely cover the flow piece, and I'll talk about the AI as well. So this got my attention. I mean, when I saw this, I said, I'm done. I don't need to hear anything else. Because any legacy, and I call myself as a legacy SharePoint person because I work with SharePoint since SharePoint Portal. SharePoint, they used to be called, what was that? SharePoint Portal, yeah. That was SharePoint 2003. It wasn't even called SharePoint Server. SharePoint Server was back in 2007. So anyway, I got into InfoPad Designer at SharePoint Server 2007. InfoPad Designer was fantastic. You can build its own forms, you can build it with a custom form on the list, but you never had it for a document library. Requests went out, they were thinking about it, but anyway, 2007 SharePoint never came out for a document library. SharePoint Server 2010, InfoPad never came out for a document library. 2013, new features came out, the actual tool looked a little bit more different over there, more customizations came out, but you still couldn't do it for a document library. And then in 2013, 2016, obviously now we don't even use it because it's getting deprecated. But the whole concept of able to use a customized form for the SharePoint document library was huge. This actually has been a request for SharePoint people since those using SharePoint Server 2007. So we've all waited for this for a very long time. And big kudos to the Power Platform team because not only were they able to, I won't say replace, but be a good successor to InfoPad Designer in SharePoint, but they also took it up to a whole different level, which is now being a form for a document library. The other thing which I always wanted to look at was, if you see in the delegation over there, it is the choices, lookups, and the person. So, just as a quick, 2-minute explanation of what delegation is. Delegation is literally what that term means. Is can this data be delegated, which means can it be used to fully use the potential of this application. There's a whole bunch of documents available in delegation, but what you want to know is that if you're using any application or any backend database, you want to first go and see, is this data source delegatable when it comes to Power Apps? Because what happens is if it's not delegatable, you're going to run into the limit of only working with 2,000 number of items at a time. Something to keep in mind. SharePoint is delegatable, but there's limitations to that as well. You don't want to have galleries directly in to, and that's a whole separate section altogether. But if you really want to use the functionality of SharePoint with document libraries or things, use the list as it is. You don't have to worry about pulling that into a gallery. If you are going to pull that into that gallery, then filter the galleries and things like that. So the SharePoint is delegatable, Azure SQL is delegatable. Other things you want to know about delegation are the functions. There are formulas and functions which some are delegatable, some are not. What that means is that if you go ahead and use the filter function, if you go ahead and use the search function, it will pull all the items in your list. But if you use the combination of the functions, it won't pull all the items. So any PowerApps user needs to basically go ahead and search, go into PowerApps on the top, any Power home page, there's space for documents. The link will actually have documents.microsoft.com, PowerApps, and they'll have a maker, and then all the other information. You need to bookmark that, because that is going to be your Bible, so to speak, for PowerApps. Because anytime you're building custom solutions, forms like that, make sure that you are using all the delegation approach. But this to me was a great thing because choice, lookup columns, person, and groups, they were non-delegatable before, but they went ahead and added that. So the list of delegatable column types is increasing by leaps and bounds. So this is the thing over there. If you always see that there's a big need for that, go to the community forum. There's a place to go in and put in a request and ask people to go vote for that. So that's that. But this to me was after I saw that, I said, I'm done with MS. I don't need to listen to anything else. This itself was good enough for me, at least from a SharePoint perspective. But there was more. Obviously, everything is Teams these days. Whatever was one thing that gets changed to Teams. Big joke I hear among the Skype people is that, oh yeah, there used to be Skype live meeting, and they just changed it to Teams live now. So, and it is for good reason, right? Teams is one centralized place to go ahead and do everything now. You don't have to go anywhere else. You've got documents sitting. Well, Teams library is SharePoint document library. You've got conversations over there. You can now go ahead and embed all your Power Apps directly into a tab on Teams over there. So you don't even have to tell people that, hey, go to the SharePoint, click on this list and do that. You can directly build a custom app, which is still saving to that SharePoint list, add it to your tab in your Teams over there. And the key thing over there, when they talk about the Teams embedding improvements, what used to happen in the past was authentication. You could still embed a Power App into Teams, so you would have authentication problems. You would still have to put in your username and password and all of that. But now it is part of Teams. And that's why they showed over there that you can go ahead and now search and find all your Power Apps and embed that directly into Teams. A little tab shows up over there, and then it will go ahead and leverage any model-driven apps or Canvas apps over there. So this was a big announcement over there as well, all the embedding into Teams. Mail app in Outlook, I know none of us are Exchange people over there, but as you can see in that demo which is there on the GIF, you can go ahead and embed an entire Power Apps form directly into Outlook. Big call out is this is Office 365 Outlook. This is not available on a local Exchange on-prem Outlook, so just keep that in mind. And then the other thing is it is now part of now available for the Power Apps client too. So that was pretty cool over there. The preview date, I put in that the preview will come out in October. You should always just keep an eye on your Power Apps because whatever is in preview, it may not automatically show up. So when you open up Power Apps Studio, you got to open up Power Apps, you got to go to File, you got to go to Advanced Settings, and you may actually have to click on turning on this Power Apps preview over there. So don't expect that, October is here and I'm not seeing this new preview. You actually got to go turn it on. All right, now admins and Power Apps. So this was pretty cool. What they did was they made Power Apps as the one central administration to do all the administration work for the Power Platform, including connectors and common data services that you may even use on the Flow side. It will be on the Power App side as well. So one of the things which I tell a lot of people that if you're a large enterprise company and you only use products, say, hey, I'm this, big company over here, and I own SharePoint as a platform, and we are now, starting to use Power Apps, and there's no owner or user for Power Apps. You may want to be the early adopter of that platform as well. You want to take over the ownership of that platform. Power Apps directly integrates into SharePoint. Flow directly integrates into SharePoint. So something to keep in mind on that. But the cool thing about that was the administration piece was pretty big, because right now if you log into your Power Apps over there, you will see the two things: environments on the top, you see analytics, which and the admin centers, but the capacity section is not available over there. So that was pretty cool on that side. And there's a lot more sections coming in on the improvement side as well. The Power Apps commandlets for admins, that has actually been there for a while. There's just more and more features available. Just like your SharePoint online as well, you'll have to just download its own module, install it on your PowerShell, and then it works. So that's pretty good. Okay, so the Microsoft Flow and its vision and roadmap. This was actually something else which came in all the time. There was throughout the entire Power Platform, they kept talking about automation, because that was the first time they talked about the integration of AI into the Power Platform. Not just in but it was in PowerApps, it was Flow, and Power BI. So that was the whole concept. And I put in this slide for that reason, because in every session I got to attend, or every session I was watching, the whole concept of automation came up over there. So again, even on the Power Apps side, on the Flow side, the concept of developer came into play with Logic Flow over there, with Logic Apps. Now, on the Flow side, it is not that different, because Logic Apps has been there for a while. It's not that on the Power Apps, the developer side is just new. On the Flow side, Logic Apps have been there for a while. But what they did do was they went ahead and added more functions to Logic Apps, because if there isn't any function or expression available directly in Flow, which your IT professionals want to use, then your developers can actually build that in Logic Apps, and then that call can be made directly into Flow. So there's a really good synergy between developers and IT professionals. So that's why I really liked. This wasn't new. They went there and announced it that you can build a Flow from scratch, but then you can also leverage professional dev solutions and functions. Two key focuses on Microsoft Flow. This is not much more from from SharePoint perspective, because we really won't be using this on SharePoint a lot. But I do want to talk about the two distinct types of flows available. There is flow automation, which we, the SharePoint folks, will use. That's directly tied into SharePoint. But then there is also business process management, which is another type of flow, and right now it is only available to CDS, Common Data Service, as a backend. The flow, the business process management, even though it looks cool and you'll actually hear a lot of people talking about it as a new thing, it's actually not new. That comes straight from Dynamics 365. The whole concept of this type of business process management and all that, that's been there in Dynamics 365 on-prem before even Dynamics 365 came out. So what they have done is they've gone ahead and done this great synergy between the two, because now Flow can also use backend CDS, and that Flow, the business automation, also only uses CDS. So if you went ahead and build a business process management for CDS only, and for whatever reason you didn't like it, you don't have to worry about it, because your backend is still the CDS, and that same CDS data connector can be used from the Flow side as well. But the key thing for us is that for SharePoint people, we used to be focusing on Flow automation. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because today, if you log into your Flow, you'll actually see three tabs when you want to create a new Flow. You'll see your Flow, you'll see a team's Flow, and then you see this business automation process over there. There's no way to hide the business process automation over there, because if you're a specifically SharePoint person, you can't hide it, but if you try to create it, it's not going to work with SharePoint, it only works with CDS.
Yeah, so it shows up even if you don't have a license for it.
Yeah.
Then you got to call for help.
Oh, there's licensing is being an issue. In fact, what's that? What is going on? Inspire is going on right now. So there's discussions going on about licensing over there too. And I was talking to a few people. So I'm going to let the dust settle and then figure out exactly what the licensing is. So there's some discussion on that as well. But no, he nailed it. A great example was you may not have Flow licenses. You may not have turned on Flow, but if you go to your SharePoint and you click on Flow, it will still allow you, because you can do free flows, and there's no way to hide it. There's no way to stop it too. You can actually build free flows. You can go ahead. It is a limit in how many flows you can do, how many times it will run, and whatnot. So I know for a fact there are companies who are not ready to do that. In fact, one of the companies sitting over here, I wonder who that company is, who had to put in a call to say that, hey, you need to stop those flows. You're not approved over here. I know who that company is.
Are they in the medical business or the financial business?
I'm going to say not financial. That was nice to hear that story from Kelly too, about that happened. And it's not just Kelly, I've heard it from other companies too, is that you're not approved it, you can't hide it, but you can start using it. And it just goes and turns on. So that's one way to look at it. But if you're going to let your people start going to SharePoint online, I know if I allow my people to go to SharePoint Online, it's because of these two things: a successor for InfoPath and a successor for SharePoint Designer.
There are ways to curve it a little bit.
There is, yeah. You want to kind of touch on that? What you were saying is there's certain ways you can curve it and control it. You want to touch on that?
I was just pointing out. So we've got some licensing saying we have, because we have so much information and patient information and contracts and everything else, we were able to lock it down so you can't come in unless you've got, unless your license is letting you come in. You have to actually use your Extreme login to get into it. So we were able to lock it down a little bit that way.
The other cool technique was hard cleanse. Everybody knows, on-prem people knows Todd Flynn. He's pretty famous SharePoint MVP. He actually posted a blog a month ago that you can actually run a PowerShell script and hide that from the ribbon. Oh man, that was a pretty interesting when he did that. I'll never forget Todd. I pinged Todd. I said, "Hey Todd, I saw your article." He said, "Daniel, don't hate me." I was like, "No, dude. I didn't know you could do that." Yeah, thank you, because I can see the image of the reason to do that. Other cool thing, which is on back to this topic, is it's right now in test and preview, but they're finally bringing in copy and paste. That has not been there for a while. Now again, old school SharePoint guy like me, even with SharePoint Designer when copy and paste came in, I would only copy sections of it, like an action or a condition. You will never see me copy an entire step, because that always broke for some reason. It didn't create variables, it didn't create all that. But at least it was there, so I can go ahead and copy and paste some actions together, and that copy and paste is coming in flow as well. It's in preview right now, so you should be able to at least test it, but that's going to come up. That's huge. All right, so workflow.
What will you be able to copy? A bunch of actions or...
The only testing I did was I did actions and a condition, but I didn't test, like if you went ahead and say build a condition and it has two sections going on, if you start working on this one, this thing all collapses. I wasn't able to capture the entire collapse section. So, yeah. Yep. So automated flows. I mean, this is not. They were giving more explanation on that. Instant flows, and then the scheduled one. So as you can see on the icons over there, automated is on new item or edit item. Instant flows would be, you can trigger it anyway. You can use the physical buttons, you can use the virtual buttons, and then you can do the schedule flows. One place I see schedule flows used a lot is by actual admins. They schedule it to see how many new flows have been created, how many of these are legitimate, how many of these are not, how many have failed, what's the reason for the fail, how many have gone crazy by running 100,000 flows in the last 5 minutes, kind of a thing. Admins use schedule flows a lot, so something to keep in mind. In fact, there's a whole bunch of templates, and there's some really nice templates for admins available, so keep that in mind. This was, again, a big number. The last time I had checked before MBAS, there was 230 connectors. Now there's 260, and I feel like every week there's a new connector coming in. As you all know, any flow user as well should know. And just like Dean pointed out, it will let you use it, but on the connector side, it's a little bad thing. You don't know that, say you are a PowerApps Plan 1 user or an Office 365 user building a flow for SharePoint, and you see, there's this really cool connector available, and I know my business uses it, so I'm going to start using it. You go ahead and use the flow. You didn't read the fine details of that. You spend 3 weeks building the flow, and it's time to do the testing and go live. Nice pop-up message comes on the top. It's like, this is not going to work because you don't have premium plan 2. So, wish it would do two things. Either if you don't have that, it should hide it. It doesn't. Or right off the bat, when you're building it, it should tell you that, hey, you can't use this because you don't have that license. So, keep that in mind. When you're, whether you're an IT professional using it, or if you are a admin, you need to create some kind of documentation for your IT professional saying that, hey, I know you're using this, and remember that we are Office 365 people, so we are not actually leveraging Plan 1 or definitely not leveraging Plan 2. So keep you as the admins, as the IT professionals need to know exactly which connectors you're allowed to use. And then we can, talking about environments and security factors, that's a whole separate discussion, so we'll keep that for another day. But the option was there was definitely a lot more connectors available. One of the things I know about connectors is, gosh, like a year and a half ago, I used to actually build if I didn't see a connector. There was a really great template available. They were called Swagger files. Swagger is just another thing for a JSON type of a file. You put in your credentials over there, you put in your API URLs over there, and it would work. And then I actually stopped doing it because every time I needed something, I'd just wait for a month, maybe 6 weeks, and it would come out over there. What takes building for Microsoft to build it is actually doesn't take much time at all. I mean, if a simple non-developer like me can build it in one day, Microsoft can build it really fast. What takes some time is the certification process. Depending on what connector they build it for, it has to go for a certification process. There's like the Twitter connector. It broke. Remember, ever since Twitter had the big, the CEO of Twitter had a big discussion with, Facebook had the big discussion. Twitter is fine. I know Twitter works. Had the discussion. They just said, no, your connector is not going to work. We are going ahead and taking up all the permissions for that. But for some reason, anybody who built it a year ago, it still worked for them, the Facebook connector. So the product team actually went ahead and put their code on building a Facebook connector. I actually blogged on that, how to build a Facebook connector, because GitHub, they've dumped the Swagger file, and they've given like a half-a-page documentation. And so I reached out to the guy who built it. He was in the product developer. Dude, man, this documentation is not enough. You got to walk me through it. So he walked me through it. Look, I'm going to blog on it. And I demoed that at the end, at the intermediate to advanced one. It's really simple. But what I wanted to call out again was, it's not surprising that there's so many connectors coming out again and again. If there is any delay, it's not actually on Microsoft's side. It's on the third party, where they've got to go ahead and go through the certification process. And then again, is the connector going to be plan 1, plan 2? You just got to wait and see on that. One thing I do want to touch, this is not new, but it's a common question that's asked to me is, I'm SharePoint on-prem. I do have E3s and E5 licenses. Can I just use Flow with and have an on-premises gateway? Yes, you can. You can do that. But if you're going to use on-prem gateway, your Office 365, E3, and E5 will not work. You will need to have at least a PowerApps, a Flow Plan 1, which is cheaper. Or if you buy a PowerApps Plan 1, which is a little bit more money, it covers the Flow Plan 1 as well. So keep that in mind. That's one key thing I tell for SharePoint on-prem people who say, I already have E3 and E5. Do I need to have, can I start using this? Yes, you can. And it depends on, again, there's a whole other discussion you have is, what's the flow built for, how many people are going to use it, and then that factors in the type of licensing you need. But your E3 and E5 will not cover on-premises gateway for that. It needs at least F1 or Flow 1 plan. Yeah.
What about the new AI stuff? Does that fall into that same connector deal?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know yet. AI is the one thing which the licensing has not been completely announced yet. So I've played with it a lot, but I have no clue.
Or set up a connector to do that, or does it just sort of magically happen?
No, it magically happens, and I'll show you that.
Okay.
I'll show you that. Yeah.
So to answer your question, you have to have P1 license, Plan 1, minimum Plan 1 license, because it is backend using CDS. PA.
There you go. Plan 1.
Business card reader works by default, but there are 4 actually. A CDS AI builder has 4. Business card reader it works just like that without having CDS. But the remaining 3 need CDS.
Okay.
So in the flow section, I grabbed this one slide there because they were just talking through, basically in flow what exactly is a trigger, what's an action, and the reason they wanted to point that out is that they're making progress on different type of questions. So sometimes when I'm building a flow, I say I really wish that this flow or this trigger was directly an action because I can't wait for a trigger to happen. And I can do something which will go ahead and pick up that new item or a new record. I should not be the one waiting for that. So they're actually working on taking what are existing triggers and even adding those as actions. And people who've used Flow for a while who kind of actually agree on that, is that, man, I wish that first action was not just a trigger. I wish it was just an action available. So they're making progress on that as well. Having dynamic content and expressions and everything. Okay, so expression, lightweight, additional logic that you can write inline. That comes up to basically two simple things. The expressions which are currently available in the flow side does need at least an Excel macro developer level knowledge to build that. And macro is a hardcore developer. It's like almost, it is Visual C++. So they got a lot of feedback. Trust me, I gave a lot of feedback on that too. Because I am not a developer, I am an IT professional. I know we have a developer sitting over there. He's actually a developer certified. He's got that certification. And he's in our SharePoint operations team. I'm going to kick him out one day. Like, why is he sitting with us over here when he could make 40,000 more on the other side? But it's just, that was the feedback. Is if you go right now, if you want to build some custom connections, like filter is a good example. I want to go ahead, actually they've changed that now to adding more filter conditions, but there was an option where I want to put a filter for conditions, that if this equals this, or instead of or and, now you can just go ahead and click plus, and it will give you the option to add another or another and, or things like that. In the past, you were allowed to put in one condition, and everything after that you had to hit on the advanced one, and you had to start writing an expression. So that is basically what they're saying, is that there is going to be lightweight additional logic to do that, but they're making it a lot more easier. And there was very interesting discussions we had, because they had a session just on that. It was not even a session, it was just an open discussion. And that was one of the feedbacks they got. The biggest feedback was you can't make this that complicated. The other feedback they got, which is very interesting, is keep it same on both PowerApps and Flow. The and should be and in PowerApps and Flow. The or should be or in PowerApps and Flow. Keep it the exact same. Talk to each other, communicate, have lunch, do something together to keep it the same. Again, this was feedback that they got. I just sat back and enjoyed that conversation, man. It was a fun conversation. That's what it was there. But it was the same thing, right? And they completely understand that it's one platform now. It's a Power Platform, and that synergy is going to definitely improve. Okay, so monitoring and debugging flows. The debug is actually out both on PowerApps and the Flow side. It's a new feature available which will actually tell you, hey, this is your flow, and these are the places that you're going to have errors in, or these are the potential places that you have warnings in. But now they've also added the reporting functionality to that. It is, I mean, for those who have not seen this on the admin side, I find it interesting because if you go and look at this flow and the monitor piece, it's actually Power BI that pops up over there. It's an embedded Power BI. But it's pretty neat. It gives you good detail. I know some people have asked and said, oh, can we have access to that Power BI data so we can build our own reports? It's a good question, but I've actually looked at this. This is actually a screenshot of one of them. I'm pretty happy with the report by itself. It's telling me what the flaw is. I mean, I've skipped some of the tabs. It tells me what the flow is, tells me the problem time it happened over there. So the out-of-the-box report is pretty good. Whether they'll give you access to the backend data source, I don't know. But the debugging and its monitoring and reporting functionality is pretty big over there. Okay, business process management. I'll skip on the design, the BPMN part, but the whole concept of sketching out complex flow using Visio. Okay. Has anybody seen this before? You build a all over again. See, like Dean and I.
Well, it's like SharePoint 2010, right?
SharePoint 2010. There was a separate license fee for that too, right? So you had to have like a
Visio Super Duper Pro, Enterprise.
Yeah, you couldn't use the simple whatever was IT Pro. It was like an enterprise license or something weird like that. But it was still worth it because you build the logic of your flow on Visio. And as long as your SharePoint server was configured properly, you open it up on SharePoint Designer, and your flow just built itself based on your logic. Another cool thing I used to like on the Visio side was I'd put in comments on my Visio, and if you need help with Visio, this is the guy. He can set up a Visio that fast. But what we would do is I would put comments on the Visio, and those comments would transfer over onto your SharePoint Designer workflow too. That right now feature is not available, but the concept to build your flow logic on Visio and coming into Flow is actually out there. It's in public preview. Don't know exactly when the actual GA will be, but it is in public preview, and this is pretty neat. I honestly, this is the one thing I haven't tested yet, so I'm excited to see. Has anybody tested this on public preview? Anybody? Dean, you tested it? I'm excited about that because what's interesting, like I'm a visual learner, so building a flow like that would make a lot more sense to me. Yeah. So again, Azure resource integration, again, building custom connectors is the whole thing over there, and I kind of already touched on that, how I used to build custom connectors. They're called Swagger files, but they're actually JSON files. That is already still available. Keep in mind that you will need the extra license for that. So, what they mentioned over there in the public preview is that you can go ahead and use custom connectors and create it like an Azure service. The reason that helped was from a licensing perspective, because instead of having a custom connector and pay a large amount for that, you can actually build it as a service, and then you're only paying for the number of calls as against the license for each user who's using it. So it kind of helps out a little bit on that side. But again, it's, like I said, I've literally stopped making connectors because it's not so fast. So this was a interesting. I picked this up from a session. Stefan, who was here, the senior guy from Flow who actually spoke at our user group, he was talking about this in his session, and I had to grab this slide. But he was saying the whole concept of logic apps versus Flow. And let me go back to this. This is what our understanding of logic apps and Flow is right now. And this was interesting to watch him speak because he was so, like, I want to get this information across. So he built this really good slide. He said that this is our understanding of what logic apps and Flow is. Logic apps only support service accounts. Flow is for the user. Right down to logic apps has got very rich ALM versus no ALM. Logic apps is only for IT versus end users. And there's a little bit of truth in that. Logic apps is a lot for the IT professionals, as again, IT developers, as against end users. That might just be my personal opinion. But this is what you wanted to convey, is that Flow is as good as logic apps. Get that mindset out that logic apps is better. You are still entitled to your own opinion. Somebody just nodded his head. It's head. But I'm with you on that. I still believe that logic apps can do more. But there's things which Flow does better than logic apps. The way the logic apps, some of the actions that you see in Flow, they're not there in logic apps. And then, but some of the actions that I would like in Flow are only in logic apps. So I really don't see them as a developer versus a IT professional. And that's why I like how it was summarized that, they both have that target towards the same people, which is towards IT, not just the developer. Flow has a rich Power BI-based report system. Identical performance, I would say yes. I haven't actually tested that yet. And they both have the same application lifecycle management or ALM functionality over there. But so if you just look at these rows, they are the exact same. But if you look at functionality, like line by line capabilities, then both are good. Because logic apps can do something Flow cannot. Flow can do something logic apps cannot. So.
And I need to go look at some of those white papers for ALM and reliability options for Flow, because I guess if there's some capabilities there that I don't know about, that's great, but I need to go get smarter about it. I just said that exact stuff to a customer last week, and maybe I was all wrong.
This slide is just an addition to that. It talks a little bit more about, logic apps versus Flow, and it does resonate to what I'm saying. This slide does resonate. So there is difference between the two. But he said that the concept of one is better than the other. Don't think that there's a difference. So they're not one is better than the other. You can still do that. I like the fact between logic apps and Flow is it allows you to have that synergy between the developers and the IT professionals. Because if you've got a custom built app solution in Azure, an Azure app solution, and you want to call that app or you want to do something to that app, then build a logic app that does that, and then you call that app into Flow. So, yeah, I do see that, the difference, but I also see it helps, in that synergy over there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've done a lot of speaking for a while. I am going to, let's do some fun demos. And I'll actually skip the slide for it. What I'll do is I'll come back to the slide later. You know what, actually, let me do the slide on that. Let's see. AI piece, common data services, announcing AI builder. Yeah, let's jump to this one. So, the reason I wanted to cover this is because this is our answer to building a form for a SharePoint online with anonymous access, because that's not there anymore, right? Back in the day, it was there. I don't even remember when that ended. It ended, but back in the day, SharePoint Online, you could go ahead and create it as a public site. You could go ahead and add a InfoPath designer form over there. You could go ahead and add a flow over there, and it would work. And then it went away. And so now I could not have a public-based SharePoint site, which is SharePoint Online, with a form on it. You can still do that on-prem, and it works just fine. So the question that's coming up is that, well, the SharePoint Online is not anonymous access anymore. I can't put it on the public one. So how do I now build a form similar to InfoPath Designer form that is still tied to something and use that? So the introduction of the PowerApps portals was that. Powerful websites for external and anonymous users. Now, this is not a 100% replacement. Why? Because right now, you can only talk to the CDS backend database. You can't talk to the SharePoint. So, but it looks like InfoPath, it feels like InfoPath, so it works like that. What was really cool was, and I have a demo on that, is specifically for building this one, some of the ways that Form, Studio is, it just brings me back nightmares or of InfoPath. I don't know. It does sometimes. Yeah, it does. You know how
Nightmare and InfoPath go
hand in hand. But it reminded me a lot of that. The only thing is, right, and that's been a norm on the Power Platform side, especially on the Power App side. Anything new comes out, they first test it on CDS. And if I were honestly part of that product group, I would do that as well, because I own CDS. I have full control over how it works. I'm not going to go and release a new feature and say that, this will work on all the other connectors as well, because I don't have full control over those connectors. So if I was on their side, I would do the exact same, all said and done. Let me release it, test it that it works on an environment that I'm most control over. So on this one over here, in the demo piece, actually on the slide section over here, this is the first one, the PowerApps portals, which actually allows you to build a WYSIWYG, what you get is kind of a design over there. But the form building right now, even in the preview, is very simple. I mean, it's just adding, creating a CDS entity, which is like creating a list, adding columns to it, and then dropping it onto your form. But what it does is it's not just a list with the form, it's actually a full-blown website. You can, if you've done simple WordPress.com building site level and just drag and drop and everything, you pick this up in one day. It's that easy. It really is that easy. But it only saves to CDS right now, and which again, many of us have seen that's been the norm. First, it's always CDS, and then in the back end, it will change to what we've seen before. So what I wanted to talk about was these two things. So there's the PowerApps portal, and the other new feature that was announced is the PowerApps Guest. Yeah.
Can we transfer the data from CDS to a SharePoint list or something?
You can export it from CDS as a Excel, and then you can publish it from Excel.
Probably a flow. As soon as we...
Yeah, you can build a flow. Yeah, you can build a flow. That'd be one way. So what he was saying is, for people who are on Teams, is there anybody on Teams left? Is there anybody on Teams right now? Is somebody there?
We're still on.
No, is anybody on Teams on this over here? Outside of the room.
How would we know?
How would we know? If anybody is dialed in on that as well, dialed in.
See, the past developer skills are still working.
No. Well, on the CDS side, you can, take this, build it, have it, save it on a CDS entity, and then using Flow, you can pick up that new entity and put it on SharePoint. But you will at least need to have that plan to do that. So you can. You absolutely do need to have this on SharePoint. Then you can do that. The other one was the PowerApps for external users, and this is part of our whole separate discussion altogether. Because the concept of external or guest users is not new on Office 365. You can do a business-to-business connection, and you can get people in. But right now, the business-to-business connection could not have access to your PowerApps. You can test that. If you have your Office 365, you go to PowerApps, you build an app, you go ahead and start sharing that app with other people. You search for people's names. Only your entities people shows up over there. But in the future, which is right now, this is also coming on a preview. They didn't officially announce this one yet. Should be though, because it's the PowerApps portal came out. Is that once you've got the B2B set up over there, business to business, then the business to business users' names also show up, and you can share them over there. So obviously, the first question that came up was licensing. It was like, I build an app which is a app which has got this custom, which is connector, and that connector requires plan 2. Does my external user who's coming in also need that plan? Or vice versa, I'm connecting to somebody else. Is my plan 1 going to work? And the answer to that is actually no. What you have to still have whatever that app was built with. If that app was built with a connector, which has plan 2, then your external people need to match that. So it's the same way. Your external users or your guest access, whatever company they're coming from, that person needs to have that same access level or same tenant level in their Office 365 description in order for it to work with whatever you're trying to do. Yeah.
Do you know if that's going to be for SharePoint list form PowerApps or for standalone PowerApps or for both?
Right now it is for for SharePoint lists, it'll work. It'll work with, from one Office 365 phase. If regardless of Office 365 E3 or E5, the guest access, as long as they have E3, E5, it'll work. But if they are connecting into a Power App, and that app, even though it has that SharePoint list connection, but for some reason in that app they also went ahead and created a plan 2, then that plan 2 custom connector, then that guest access needs to also have that plan 2 for it to work. Yeah. So again, from a SharePoint perspective, guest access, you're fine. So if you've got E3s or E2s to build this with guest access, then the person who's going to be in your guest side, when they come in, as long as they have that SharePoint E3 or E5, it'll work. So from a SharePoint perspective, it's completely fine. And then over here on the easy responsive, one of the neat things on the Power Portal was they added a little bit of responsive design to it, and that's actually where I want to kind of stop. And we see. Yeah, so I actually have a site. I did this because I was part of the pilot program when this thing came out. They asked if I was interested in it. Yeah, sure. I played around with it. So the app that I've built, this is it's got the guest access. So if you use that small one, I actually like a few people to test it with their phones because you can see how the responsive design is. This is right now also. This is just in public preview. This one I made it when it was still in private preview, so it's not perfect by any means. So we're trying to do 2 things: test to see the responsive design, and that you're actually saving the data into my CDS entity. So all the authentication, everything's working. Remember about this URL is case sensitive, so you got to put it the exact same way. But yeah, you can try it. And what I'll do is I'll actually show you. If you look at it from the desktop standpoint, so right here, I created a separate tenant, and this is now the new portal, our portal. If you notice right off the bat now, there were only 2 types before. There was the canvas, There was a canvas and there was a model-driven, and now there's also portal. So that's the new one that came out over there. When I go ahead and now click on it to run it, actually, your apps to just directly open up, this is what I get. And as you can see, it's just no longer just a form, it's a full-blown site, because it gives you the functionality to go ahead and build some sites to it, and it's a very simple way to build a site. You just literally drag and drop things over there. Like I was saying, if anybody has actually built WordPress.com sites, you would pick this up pretty fast. Only thing is, it's still new. It doesn't have too many rules and regulations and conditions in it, But what happens is if you've gone ahead and I saved the information over here,
not bad, Danny. Mobile view is also good.
Okay, so I input, show me my input.
I submitted that. Now I go into I'm on my correct environment. Entities in CDS means exactly like the SharePoint list. Let me see if I can find, see, over here, every time you create your own entities, except for the out-of-the-box ones, entities, they have these nice names. So when you create your entity, it will always create these prefixes. And these prefixes changes depending on what's available over there.
So they got that idea from SharePoint Server.
I think it got idea from the backend SQL.
That's what I meant. They're trapping stuff at the end of your entity.
Oh, man.
So anyway, create entities through PowerShell, but you can name it how you want to.
Yeah. So what I did was I went ahead and just created another field.
It works.
Where was the views? Yep, the views, and I think I created the data. Sorry, the data, and I think I created another one called. Yes, but it does work. I went ahead and see some new data that's coming in over here.
I just submitted.
Yep. Yeah. It works. But if you think about it, this is
pretty slick.
It is. And right now, this was their answer to what we used to do in InfoPad Designer on-prem anonymous access. But again, they always come back to the term that PowerApps is not a replacement of InfoPad Designer. It is a successor. So it can do this. Yes, it can be used for SharePoint, like the way Krishna said. You will have to temporarily store this data in CDS and then create a flow to kick it off to a SharePoint list. Or you can just use this. But again, this is in preview, so who knows in the future what data connections they'll allow you to use. But that's public level anonymous access. I thought that was pretty neat over there.
So if we go out to a demo tenant, it should be there?
Yeah, in fact, it got released today. Yeah, so I went to my own tenant and I was able to see it. So
when you go to new Power App, you have a new option?
Yeah, this is mine.
Daniel, any special reason why PowerApps has not a capability to directly store into a SharePoint list?
It does have that capability. There's a connector for SharePoint.
So that's what.
Yeah.
Then we can store directly there.
But not with this, not with the Power Portal. Power Portal doesn't use PowerApps Studio. And I'll show you that. I can go back to that one. So right now, the way you build a Power Portal is you go ahead and create that entity. You go ahead and in the entity, you actually create a new form. These are the ones which always are out-of-the-box ones, main, card, and everything. But I went ahead and created a new form. When you go ahead and edit that form, now they've built this new studio section over here. And this new studio, authentication. Oh man, I don't know what that password was now. My test account, what password would I put in?
Password?
Oh, good. I got it.
Yeah.
I think I got it. Yeah. So, this is basically how is it's in preview right now. This new interface, this is the new interface that they built because, again, this whole concept is not new from a Dynamics 365 perspective. Dynamics 365 could do this, and you have to use Dynamics 365 form building technology to do that. But this is new, the form area. This reminds me of InfoPad Designer so much. especially when they move the fields and everything to this side over here. The PowerApps is on the other side, right? It's on the other side. So they move it over here. And I looked at it, whoa. Yeah.
I'm going to send my fields on the right side and then flip out. You know, I'm on the left.
Yep, I don't want to do that.
Weird.
Anything can move. Yeah, I was on the left, I could drag and drop. But yeah, it wasn't web-based stuff. You know, it had its own desktop.
It goes back to the InfoPath days.
Yeah, back in InfoPath. And you had cache problems on InfoPath. You still have SharePoint Designer cache problems. But yeah, I guess I like it. It's pretty user-friendly. Right now, it's in its infancy. You can't really add any conditions to this. You can have the functionality to go ahead and give this type of fields that you want, columns. You can go ahead and create views and drop the views over there. And it's not just a form. You can actually build a full site out of the Power Portal. So that was pretty neat. So that's what it looks like. It's in preview right now. And I'm definitely hoping there'll be more improvements over here, especially from the user interface to add more controls and things like that. But the key thing right now is it's only in CDS. And I think if I switch to Classic, it directly kicks me to Dynamics 365 because this was there in Dynamics 365 for a long time. It's always funny if you sit and talk to like a Dynamics 365 and you say, "Oh, this new feature has come out." That's not new. It's just like us talking about SharePoint and dependencies. It is there in Dynamics 365. It's taking bits and pieces and moving it over there. All this permissions and everything.
But this is a public-facing website.
This is a public-facing website also as well, correct?
I mean, website and the fact that you get to it through a browser, but it's...
yeah, the website and the designer piece gets to the browser. Yeah.
Any sense for like how many? I guess it's a form with a bunch of forms in a kind of page, or
you can have forms, pages. It would be more like your SharePoint publishing site, kind of.
Yeah.
Not a team site.
I mean, every form is going to be attached to data, right?
Every form will be attached to data. Yeah, you've got to have an entity created, and then have your columns in that entity, and that's what gets pulled over here.
It would just be a text field on an entity that's just like, your welcome page. I mean, to get you started.
You could, yeah. So let's come back up then. If you don't even want to have a form, yeah, you can not put a form. You can always just use the pages that come along with it. If you want to have a form which has got the PowerApps look and feel to it, and build a custom form like how we did in InfoPath design, then this would be a good successor for that. But if you just want to use it as a page, as a website, you could, because you don't have to drop a form over here. If you remember, I can build some other pages, but then you could.
I'm thinking of
WordPress.
Jumping ahead where you have a bunch of forms for a bunch of different business processes, and I want to pull them all together so that from a public-facing, partner-facing type thing, they can come to one place and get access to all of those different data entry forms, to...
Getting access, I don't know, because I don't see a functionality right now to build a gallery. All I can see is a place to enter information one time and submit it. Getting access to view, that's not there. Maybe they'll drop that. Right now, this is not a central place to fill out a form and submit data.
Yeah.
Not to view anything.
Like I've got a customer who's like, go on a website to register for their webinars, another one to subscribe to their newsletters, another one, you start
use the forms before that. You can even use the forms, simple one, professional. You can save that now to anything. You can actually save forms data with flow to CDS, dump it on a Power BI, and
this is another option.
This is another option.
Yeah.
To fill a form. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is. But yeah, I can say the form studio is actually being worked on right now. But if you click on the classic view, it just takes you straight back to the designer place over here. But I do like that it's already got built-in responsive design to it. Still needs a little bit of work. But it's got built-in responsive design, which PowerApps out of the box doesn't. And then you can actually build a full site out of this as well. full page.
Okay, well, yeah, that was the stuff that I was sort of learning about, yeah.
So, all right, we'll also jump to another demo. What I would show you is, and if we have time, I'll get to the slides. So, you know what, let me just touch a little bit on the slides piece. Yeah, so this was the new announcement which was made on AI Builder. And now AI Builder is directly integrated into the entire Power Platform, which is PowerApps Flow and Power BI. For AI for every app and every developer. So some of the things that they built in this is, and I want to actually jump into the example text itself. The four major types that they built is binary classification, forms processing, object detection, and text classification. So binary classification is the prediction of fields. If you go ahead and submit like if you can between the binary classification and the
Is to decide yes or no.
Is the forms processing. The forms one would be you have bills and you have invoices. You go ahead and scan that, it will go ahead and take all the information automatically, like an OC, like a photocopy OCR, but it will also be smart enough to put that into the field piece over here. The binary classification is, it will not only take the data, but it also qualifies to see what is this data type. So it will put that in a very specific type of table as well. Because in CDS, you can actually pick and choose what are the different column types that you need. So that's where the binary classification comes in. The forms processing, object detection, even the text classification, that was pretty cool. At Inspire, the demo that Pepsi did was through object detection. That was what they did over there. So what I will show you is the one for not the object detection, but I will show you the one for the text classification one. And let me see if I still have everything up and running. Did I put in? Dean, you got a business card on you?
Yeah, somebody's.
Let's see. So I'll show you. I'll actually show this to you in my phone itself.
Nope, I just purged my wallet of business cards.
Anybody got a business card? Oh, I take that. Cool. Then I will.
Nope, here we go.
Oh, cool. Then let me do that. Pretty much in
Or they pulled the technology out of the, we call it the Office Lens.
No, that's
more available.
Office Lens still does that.
Yeah,
Lens is
I mean,
cool.
they already had that tech.
I don't know how they did it though. I don't know how they built it. That is a good question though.
But obviously, identify what has to be captured. That it doesn't convert anything.
It doesn't convert, but Office Lens is pretty cool, man. You can scan full business cards, save it into your OneNote and everything. I
totally just push that and it just takes only that piece on the table. Everything is cool. But it doesn't, feed out the data, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't allow you this functionality where I can create that and I can save it to any back-end database and whatnot. So this app is actually running on my phone. I've made it. What I'm going to show you is the out-of-the-box one, which is the functionality for the text classification. The do-it-yourself is because the joke with the product group is that in this app there needs to be my name, font size like 0.5, because they stole this idea from me. I built this a year ago. And so yeah, we looked at your blog and we got some ideas from it. No, you didn't get it. You stole my idea. And I want to make sure that is being recorded. They stole my idea. So yeah,
Thought you'll be sending you a check.
So all I do is I just click on that because it's actually now a control. I take the photo, Nothing fancy about that.
Daniel, you're mirroring or no?
I'm not sharing. Let me go back to that. Thanks for letting me know. Let me get out of this. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm sharing my app right here. That's the app that I've put in it. And what I've done is I've actually built this, because I'm going to be demoing this at SV TechCon. I'm going to show people over there how I built it myself. But this out-of-the-box functionality is actually just a one screen. I went to the AI controls and I went ahead and picked the one for the business card scanner. All I do is I click on it, and on the photo, and then on the phone it gives me the option to either take the photo or use an existing one. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the photo, use this photo, and once it's here, it is automatically going ahead and doing the AI processing. And the one thing right now with the business card scanner is it's got fixed fields that it's already built over there. The fixed field is it actually has first name, last name, full name, phone number 1, phone number 2, phone number 3. These are all fixed fields. You don't have the options to add more of your fields. And so what I did was I just basically took all the fields and I went ahead and collapsed it together, concatenated them together, and I put this over there. In the way I built my app is because I'm scanning it, and I've made the connection to Azure services. I can do it how I want, but because I have built the original way, I actually appreciate this more than anybody who hasn't, because of how much work I had to put in. I had to build an app. First, I had to actually have a connector to Azure Cognitive Services, to the AI vision, because Azure Cognitive Services have so much. You got to go and get a connection to Azure Cognitive Services over there. Once I got that connection set up with it, that wasn't a plan to or Premier, it was just a regular plan. I wasn't able to make that connection work directly with PowerApps. It was actually in the writing that says it goes there and works well with the with Flow. So I'm taking the picture from PowerApps, sending it to Flow. Flow goes and sends it to Azure Cognitive Services, sends it back again, and then I'm processing the information on the PowerApps side. Well, now it's all automatically happening. It's all built into it. So it's pretty neat. I was really happy with this. So let me see. Did I lose that? Okay. Anyway, that was the demo that I wanted to show that was on that side. Now what I can do is I'll at least share with you a little bit of how I was able to build out this. Yep. So here's the business card scanner. Let me see if that's the right one. Is that one? So the app's pretty straightforward. I think the one that I'm going to show you, because I want to kind of walk you through a little bit of the difference. We'll go ahead and... So that's loading. If anybody new came in, I'm going to give out some swag. The ones over there, and where you need to fill out this form. So there's two ways to fill out the form. You either take this picture, or you've got to go ahead and use this URL. You've got to fill that form. If you don't fill that form, you won't fall in the lottery to win the swag. So make sure you fill this form. And to get to the form, you got to scan. You can either use a QR scanner or access this URL. Okay. So again, I'm not showing that. I'll just take that. What I was actually talking about is.
So business card.
This was only for you actually, Krishna, because you came in late. So, if you want to get in the winnings of that, you got to fill out that form at least once. And you can either take a picture or you can fill out for some people the code didn't work, so I also provided the link.
For me also it's not working.
Yeah, you can use that link.
Yeah, let's take a look.
So that is.
So Daniel, so the business card business card scanner is a text classification corridor or no, right? That's a different one altogether.
No, No, that's a different one altogether.
Yeah.
The business card scanner is actually
An option.
one of the AI builder. It is its own business card scanner.
Yes.
And then there is the form processor, the one we talked about, and then object detector is the classification one. So that's what it was here. Form processor is very touchy right now. I tested it with taking a lot of Lowe's or Walmart receipts just to process the data and then save it over there. Didn't work. Since I was in the private testing, I was reaching out to the guys who was testing. I said, hey, when it doesn't process receipts very much. I'm going to leave the response. I said, can I get a copy of these receipts? But I mean, we need a copy of those. I was like, okay, I'll send you a copy of my Lowe's receipt. I bought some stuff. But I sent it to them, and they said that no, when I scanned, it wasn't a 100% scan. There was a little bit of moving around and everything. So the example they gave was actually an easy one, but it makes sense that go ahead and use one of the templates of Word as a form, export that as a PDF, and then that's worked. So it has to be very accurate for it to work. So if you want to do that type of form processing, then your form has to be very adequate. Business card scanner is the one that I showed you. Object detector is the one that they demoed at, they didn't demo it at MS, but they demoed it at Inspire, was the Pepsi one. Pepsi has actually gone ahead and used the object detector. They use the AI and machine learning. They taught the machine learning all their bottles, which are usually at the, at their, go ahead and get it from those, what do you call those, vending machines. And now the people will go and replace or add to the vending machines. You don't have to count anymore. They just take a picture of it and it counts automatically. That's the demo they did at the Inspire one. It was pretty cool. Just a lot of training needs to be going on that. Lots of training.
They were doing it or they showed it at the keynote too.
What was that?
They were going into the stores to take pictures.
Oh, they were? They did that?
They did you can tell the difference between the 20 ounces and the
yeah, it was pretty cool. It makes it sound a lot easier, and it is. Once you do the training, it works really well, but you got to do the training. You should, Shane Young, a good friend of mine, he actually, I think he did a video on that.
Yeah, he did
a video on that. Of his little things, and he had like 5, 6 of them.
Cows.
Yeah, he took pictures all around his house.
Chewy, yeah.
All around his house.
All different
angles, different materials, different texture, all of that. We needed a solid training on that.
Yeah.
I actually did a training of only 25 Lego pieces. For each of the Lego pieces, I took 70 to 80 pictures. I put it on my carpet, I put it on my work desk, and then put it on the downstairs wooden floor, on the kitchen island, everything. And it worked really well. It was so good that now I would have the 6x2 Lego brick, the original brick. I did all the training on the reds and the blues, but if I take a picture of like the black or the white, it still detected it. It was really neat. But 65 images, 3 to 7 images per Lego brick. So can you imagine, Lego has got over 10,000 parts. 10,000.
But it worked well for me with 50 images for the cars.
For the cars? Yeah. So, but it's always that one thing, like you take that one scenario when it doesn't work. And the Shane Young's video is pretty cool because what he did was he added it into a flow where if it doesn't work, it takes that picture and emails it to him, and then he just takes that picture and adds it back in the training. That was a really good technique style that he did over there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we could still go on and on, but it's already 7:20.
But one thing I like this that though you don't have a plan one, it is giving a trial version of 30 days. That's what I mean.
Yeah. It's getting you excited and wanting you to taste it. Maybe you will want to go on using it. That was the object detection on the training piece over there. But all of this data is sitting on a CDS entity. It's not sitting on anything else. But they're actually using Azure Web Services, which is specifically cloud-native services, and machine learning.
You just alluded to something. The Power Platform folks have a totally different approach to marketing than all of the other office services. They keep shoving ads in front of my face to attend things, to fill out surveys. Nobody else does that. Teams doesn't do that, Exchange doesn't do that, SharePoint doesn't do that.
And did you know
They're weighing it heck.
in the BizApp one, BizApp was done. I mean, MBAS, it was done. It still keeps coming
I
up
know,
over there.
that's my point, yeah.
I mean, a lot of us went there and think this guy's like, yeah, MBAS was done last week. Why is this still coming up over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good.
I go back and forth on that. So there's some events I actually don't know. But I'm with you. Once the event is done, I don't need to see that anymore. What I would like is if it remembers that you clicked it. That you've seen it, you clicked it, you should remember that.
Not the problem all over the place in there, though.
Yeah, that I would like. I mean, I know cookies can be considered as a virus or as a hack, but if you get a prompt on the top that, hey, a cookie is going to be put on your browser, and you click on that OK, then it should remember. So
The Azure boys and girls know how to do it.
yeah.
I mean, the Azure portal, I mean, they...
Dean Furness said that Azure people know how to take care of the PowerApps thing.
How to take care of notification memory.
Correction, how to take care of notifications.
Yeah.
We'll make sure they get it. Okay.
This is like AI monitored, right?
Yeah. That's true. What I do want to jump on.
We're in the building. We're on the grid.
Where is this on there?
In the slide thing, one thing that I did want to touch on a little bit, slide gallery,
I think surprising in the AI builder is like the preview itself is pretty exciting. I don't know, by the time they release full functionality, what else they're going to add. Seriously, it's pretty nice.
One thing which caught my eye, I know I have the, this one over here. No, I don't, some of us who are on PowerApps side, we are leveraging PowerApps. This was actually a pretty big thing because I know we are only going to be SharePoint people, but the whole concept of exclusively PowerApps, you save only to common data services over there. Getting this information was pretty cool because once upon a time, in PowerApps, everything was just this one place, CDS. And the backend of CDS was Azure SQL. And that CDS was used everywhere, right? But what they did was, besides how, they kind of actually literally walked through the architecture of how CDS works over there. The load balances, every time you go ahead and hit CDS, it is coming in through the web, jobs, how you would build, say, a SharePoint on-prem farm with load balancing and applications and whatnot. But here is what I like.
Back in, I would say, the term we use is CDS 1.0, everything was all sitting on
Azure SQL.
That was it. And there were performance problems over there. But when they came up with the CDS 2.0 or the new CDS, they actually,
Yeah, this one over here.
see, this was the yesterday, the data storage, everything was on CDS over here. This is the new CDS. And this includes, two things blew my mind. The performance of CDS was phenomenal. It has made amazing performance. But the thing was, the migration was so automated that nobody felt it. I mean, I was using CDS 1.0 one night. Next day, it says you're on CDS 2.0. If you are using CDS, go ahead and click on this migration button. But it switched you over. I mean, data was still there, everything. But the back end, they took from Azure SQL, CDS, and they broke it down into these three different capacities. Attachment, now, I mean, the data itself, just, whatever is a list type of a data, it sits in Azure SQL. Anything that has to do with attachments now actually sits on Azure Blob Storage. And then any logging goes on Azure, let me see, what's the next one over here? Azure Blob Storage, Azure Search.
I forget the logs are going in.
Cosmos DB. That's where it's going. So that was amazing because in this session, it was interesting to sit and talk to the actual architects of CDS, and the guys were jeans, sweatshirts. One guy looked like, oh, I'm sorry, I kind of dropped this pizza over here. Simple guys, man, but they were so smart, and they said that this was the back-end architectural change that was made, which nobody felt it, and they were so successful at it. So I help people understand CDS is expensive. SharePoint people don't need CDS, but it is really powerful in the back end, and they've taken it to a whole different level. The data, just the list type of data sitting in Azure SQL, the actual attachments sitting in blob storage, and then all the logging sitting somewhere else over here in Cosmos DB. They are literally making full usage of their own Azure environments in the back end. And that's major kudos to specifically that CDS team over there. That was the one thing I wanted to call out, because I was really impressed with that. That's huge architectural design. That is a big improvement.
So, Dan, you just made an interesting comment.
Yeah.
CDS is expensive.
Yeah.
So every time I turn around, everyone says that storage in Azure is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Why the big disconnect between that and CDS? Is it because it's got some entities already defined? I mean, it's just schema, right? I mean,
but it is so, I always look at it this way. There are three categories of Power Platform users. There's the extreme people, which is us, SharePoint people. All we care about is, hey, I got E3 and E5, I need PowerApps as a successor. Can I use it? And so, yeah, you're fine, you can use it. Then there's this middle category of people. Then there's the other extreme, which is the Dynamics 365 people. Dynamics 365 come from on-prem Dynamics. When they go to Dynamics 365, they say, well, we need Dynamics 365, and they pay for that license. Their licensing is expensive. Last I checked was almost like $45 a person. And I don't know, do you know what the new licensing for Dynamics is?
I have not looked.
It's pretty expensive, but it is like a full package deal. It comes with E5, it comes with full PowerApps, mostly with PowerApps, Power BI. It comes with the Plan 2, and with all the other Flow Plan 2 and everything. So CDS is for that extreme. That's what it is. Now there's also people in between who are, I'm not a SharePoint person, I'm not a CDS person, I just need an app. And for people like that, we tell them that, hey, if you want a place to store data, you could do it on CDS, or for less than half the cost, you can go and have your own Azure SQL subscription. You can have your own Azure blob storage, and over here you're paying, say we go with $40, and this is a true number, except for the CDS, say Dynamics 365 is $45 a person, all right? 10 people, you're paying how much? $450. Azure, and $450 per person, okay? For the entire team. Because they all want CDS, and CDS is what's charging over there. Azure SQL to store unlimited number of data, all you're paying is $35, maybe $50 if you go with some premium license over there, $50 a month for one company. And you can have rows and rows and rows. Now, where Azure gets you in general is IOPS, input output performance. If you want higher performance and everything, then you end up paying a little bit more. Okay, so you pay $50 a month, all right? Same 50 users, they're only paying 10 users paying $50 a month. You want to store data? Go get the Azure blob storage. That's another $35 you're paying a month. Unlimited number of data over there. Not unlimited, but more than enough data over there. So you want to pay that $450 for Plan 2 CDS, or you want to pay that 35 plus 45, which is what, $80 for the entire company. And you can replicate the exact same thing. Data in Azure SQL, and data and your information in Azure blob storage. But like I said, I always categorize this three categories of people. There's the SharePoint Office 365 people like us. We just have SharePoint lists. Then there's the other extreme, which is Dynamics 365. For them, money is really not a problem because they've always had money because they always use Dynamics 365. And if they go to the cloud, they've always had that. But this is that middle tier of people. They are the ones that you need to, like if I was in a consulting, I would give them these options, but hey, SharePoint doesn't come with Plan 1, so you will have to at least buy that Plan 1. CDS is that expensive, but these are the other options that you have.
Well, that's what we've been doing, and we haven't had a client yet go the CDS route.
Yeah, the only CDS people I see are Dynamics 365. Literally, those are the only CDS people I see.
Yeah, none of the RSF and previous Dynamics users, but okay, we can get SQL Service and create our own schema and have a database there look the way that we want it, or get canned stuff I mean, yeah, canned entities are nice, but if you got a decent DBA, I mean, you can come up here with your own, I mean, CDS, we're talking, 10 tables or something, it's not a big deal.
CDS, and you can go ahead and click on and say, I want to create a new CDS entity environment, and let's say you already want to have the entire CDS entities over there. It already provides you solid templates available, so you can start using them. You don't even have to create your own templates. But then there's problems over there as well. It hasn't decided for you what are the lookups and everything. So again, if you're a Dynamics 365 user, you want CDS, that's all you've used, and they love it. Dynamics 365 people from CDS side, they use a lot of model-driven apps. I have literally built hundreds and hundreds of Canvas apps since 2016. I've only built 2 model-driven apps. I have not touched that. Oh, well, I may now because you can go ahead and have PowerApps and model-driven.
Hey,
but that's that.
Is anyone at SharePoint Saturday going to be talking about CDS model-driven apps coming in from the Dynamics world?
No, because I'm not going to be there. I don't know.
No, I mean, did anyone submit?
Nobody submitted for model-driven. We've got a few people for PowerApps for model-driven, but it's just not a SharePoint.
I mean, this whole marriage of different technologies, I mean, that's the next step. I mean.
Okay, so let's wait. I mean, let's go ahead and now win. I think everybody has gone ahead and submitted. There's also did over there, so I'm going to refresh that one more time. What I'm going to do is, I built a solution, actually I built it a year ago. What I do is, I get all the information that you guys have scanned and stored. It's actually stored.
Didn't say Freddy Krueger comment.
It's submitted right now. What I do is actually I store all my information on my own Azure SQL. So you fill out the form by default goes and saves it to Excel, but I've got the flow to go ahead and pick it up, and it just saves it straight in my lottery table. Then I have built another flow. The flow uses something it's called as a, make sure I do this. Yeah, so see all the data came in, and it makes sure that there's nobody selected by default. And after that, I've gone ahead and built a flow. And this is my I can grab this flow. Yeah, I think it's in there for production. Scan business cards. Yep, not even. So what it does is it actually goes ahead and after it's going to save all this information and everything. Should have named this a little better.
Any conventions? What?
It has to be this one.
That's time for description. Just couldn't say.
Yeah, it is this one. So what it does, clearly, is it uses this thing called as random function. So in PowerApps, when I go and click on that button in PowerApps, it just goes ahead and kicks off the flow. The flow will go ahead and initialize variable is just something to fix the problem. But it goes and gets all the rows, puts it in this one filter, so I have it all condensed in one place. And then all the data that I get, I run it through this random function over here. And if you guys can completely see that random function. And that random function literally goes and looks at the filter array that I have, and it will randomly pick a number, and that number is the lottery that you guys picked up. And then it sends that, it updates the row to say that, hey, this one was already selected, which means the next time I click on that, the random will ignore that, and then sends the response back to PowerApps. I actually built that as a proof of concept for a few bunch of people, and I've been using that for a lot of my events as well. So next year, we might actually use it for our SharePoint Saturday as well. And now thanks to Power BI and its integration with PowerApps, I've actually got that app down there. So this one just shows you all the data that's submitted over there. And then on the bottom right over there, I'm going to click on that, and when it generates, it's actually picking up that flow. So we'll see now. The first prize will be, whoever wins first gets to pick and choose what they want. And then after that, it just depends on what's there. So the first prize, I'm going to click on that. It's running. See this ants on the top, it's actually running to flow. and then flow is going to send the Krishna.
The last guy who came in, he the first one who won something. So if anybody wants to know how to trick the random function, show up at the end. The random function is not that random. It picks up the last row. But what it did do is it did two things. In the table, now if I go on the SQL table, it if I execute that, what did I do? See, Krishna's name, wait, let me magnify it a little bit. Krishna's name over here, it went ahead and his already selected got changed to yes, so that next time random function will ignore that, and it goes ahead and pulls it over here. And then my Power BI report, if I go and refresh it, it's going ahead and pulling in just the names of all the winners over here. So that's what it does. So Krishna, you can come up over here and you can pick and choose whether you want the bag, or you want the T-shirt, or you want that's the charger for the phones. It usually works as well. And especially the bag. Yeah, in the bag I've already put the bag and the charger. So that was the giveaway.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was the giveaway swag that they gave. All right, so now we've got 3 more things left. I'm going to click on that again. Click to generate. Who said that?
What was it?
Let's see, your friend was here.
Your friend? Okay.
What was it?
He says, I don't want swag.
No, that was, our owner.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember.
All right, so I'm going to... Corey?
Corey, yes,
Okay.
for whatever reason.
Brian Scott.
Yeah.
That's Brian.
Okay then.
So keep refreshing. Yep. I actually like the chargers that they gave away at Advanced Business Application Summit. But see, every time I'm doing, the names show up over here. Got 2 more to go. Lori.
Unfortunately, I'm not there in person.
Hold on. See here. Somebody's already filled this up online then too.
Victoria's on there.
Dean.
Is that here?
Yep.
A box of something?
Yeah. It's the charger. It charges your phone. It does a full charge for your phone.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's got the Power BI on it. And then the last one, the T-shirt logo,
It's already got juice in it.
the Varta.
Somebody else.
are you on that?
You didn't want to function. Somebody else. All right, let's see. Freddie.
That was me.
That was good.
I wanted to pick the nightmare bulk choice for some of them, and so I submitted again. I did it twice, so don't count Freddie.
Freddie. Okay. There's not a whole bunch of us over here, so we're going to do that. Gregory.
That's you. That shirt will fit you.
Perfect.
Perfect. So
That's all. I mean, in conclusion, the MBAS was a lot for the Power Platform.
I only touched the SharePoint piece, which was basically the big one for me was the document management, document library behind that. And then, yeah, there's a lot of discussions about licensing and all of that, which we'll see. But there's been improvements, and it affects SharePoint in a lot of ways. Key thing is on-prem users, watch out for that requirement for Plan 1. And it's not just on-prem SharePoint, any data connection is touching on-prem. Azure SQL, SharePoint this, Oracle, anything, you will need that Plan 1. Keep that in mind. If you have any questions, come ask me, otherwise we are done for the day. Thank you.
Thanks for being a host.
Oh, yeah.
You've got food, so please take food.
Yeah. Do we need to save this or trash still? I'll save. I'll pretend to be that person.
Okay. Yep, what's up? The mic is connected to
Corey,
right here.
yeah. To come, I was like, oh, you're lucky. I watched him pound this one.